There comes a moment when you feel someone slipping away. The panic sets in. Your mind races with questions. Did I do something wrong? Should I reach out? Should I block them to make a statement? When emotions take over, it's easy to react in ways that don't serve you. The moment someone starts pulling away, your first instinct might be to do something, anything, to regain control. You want answers. You want reassurance. You want them to see your worth, to realize what they're losing. But here's the truth. The more you try to control, emotional detachment is not about being cold or indifferent. It's about recognizing that your value is not dependent on how someone else treats you. Most people operate from a place of emotional dependence, constantly seeking validation from others. They think if they can just say the right thing, do the right thing, or prove their worth, they'll get the love and respect they desire. But this thinking is flawed because it places power in someone else's hands. It suggests that your happiness and self-worth are dictated by another person's actions, and that's where people lose themselves. Consider this. When you beg, plead, or try to force someone to stay in your life, you send a message, one that says, I need you more than you need me. I value you more than I value myself. Whether you realize it or not, people pick up on this energy. And when they sense desperation, they pull away even more. It's human nature. The more available and eager you are, the less valuable you appear. This doesn't mean you should play games or manipulate, but rather that you should understand a fundamental truth. Real power comes from emotional control. When someone distances themselves, the worst thing you can do is chase. Instead, you must learn to master emotional detachment. This means acknowledging your feelings but not acting on them impulsively. It means sitting with discomfort without trying to fix it immediately. It means understanding that another person's actions are not a reflection of your worth, but rather a reflection of their own emotional state. Detachment is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice. You have to train yourself to pause before reacting, to observe rather than immediately respond. Most people don't do this. They react emotionally, letting their feelings dictate their actions, and in doing so, they give their power away. But when you master emotional detachment, you become unshakable. You no longer feel the need to beg for attention, to demand explanations, or to react impulsively. Instead, you remain calm, composed, and in control. There's a certain energy that comes with emotional detachment, an energy of self-respect and quiet confidence. People can feel it. When you don't react the way they expect, it makes them curious. They wonder why you're so calm. They start questioning their own actions. They begin to realize that maybe they misjudge you, that maybe they took you for granted. And that's when the power dynamic shifts. Not because you played a game, but because you refuse to let your emotions control you. Most people operate from a place of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. But fear is a weak foundation to build anything on. When you approach relationships from a place of fear, you're constantly trying to hold on, to prove your worth, to keep things from falling apart. But when you operate from a place of strength, you don't chase. You don't beg. You don't react emotionally. Instead, you trust that if someone is meant to be in your life, they will be. And if they're not, you let them go without resistance. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you stop trying to force something that isn't meant to be. It means you stop attaching your happiness to an outcome you can't control. Most people don't realize how much of their suffering comes from attachment. Attachment to how things should be, to how someone should act, to how a relationship should unfold. But when you release that attachment, everything changes. When you stop reacting emotionally, you gain clarity. You begin to see people for who they truly are, not who you want them to be. You recognize patterns you may have ignored before. You start prioritizing yourself your peace, and your growth. And in doing so, you naturally become more attractive, not just to others, but to the right people. Emotional detachment is a shift in mindset. It's the ability to say, I am whole regardless of what happens. I am valuable even if someone else doesn't see it. I am in control of myself even when things feel uncertain. It's about owning your emotions rather than letting them own you. And when you master this, you notice something incredible. You no longer feel the need to chase anyone because you realize that real power comes from being okay no matter what. Silence is one of the most powerful tools you have, yet most people underestimate it. When faced with rejection, uncertainty, or emotional pain, the instinct is to react, to explain, to defend, to argue, or to demand answers. People feel the need to make themselves heard, to justify their worth, to ensure that the other person understands what they have lost. But what they don't realize is that the more they speak, the less impact they have. Silence, on the other hand, speaks volumes. When someone distances themselves from you, ignoring you, pulling away, or giving you mixed signals, your natural reaction might be to seek clarity. You want to know why. You want to understand what changed. You want closure. And in the process, you find yourself reaching out, sending messages, asking questions, and trying to get a response. But here's what happens. The more you push for answers, the more distant they become. The more you seek validation, the less they feel the need to give it. Because when someone knows they have your attention, they don't have to work for it. They don't have to wonder about you. You are predictable, available, and eager. And that takes away the mystery, the intrigue, and ultimately their respect. Silence disrupts this pattern. When you stop talking, when you stop explaining, when you stop trying to make your presence known, you shift the energy completely. You create a void. And nature abhors a vacuum. People don't value what is constantly in front of them, but they notice what suddenly disappears. It is in the absence that curiosity grows. It is in the silence that thoughts begin to wander. They start to wonder why you haven't reacted, why you haven't reached out, why you seem unaffected. And that curiosity is powerful. Most people think that blocking someone is the ultimate power move, that cutting them off is how you regain control. But blocking is still a reaction. It still shows that their actions had an effect on you. True power is when you become indifferent. When you don't need to make a statement, when you don't need to prove anything, you simply remove your attention, and that is enough. Because when someone expects a reaction and gets nothing, it forces them to sit with their own thoughts. It forces them to reflect. And that is where the shift happens. Silence also gives you the space to regain your own power. When you are constantly engaging, constantly checking their social media, constantly wondering about their next move, you are placing all of your energy on them. You are giving them space in your mind, in your emotions, in your daily life. But when you go silent, you reclaim that energy. You redirect it toward yourself. You start to focus on your own life, your own growth, your own happiness. And in doing so, you become stronger, more attractive, and more in control. Another reason silence is so powerful is because it forces the other person to face their own emotions. When you are constantly there, constantly available, constantly reacting, they don't have to deal with the consequences of their actions. They don't have to feel the weight of losing you because you're still present in some form. But when you remove yourself without warning, when you stop engaging, when you disappear from their world without explanation, they are left with their own thoughts. And that silence becomes loud. It makes them question. It makes them wonder. And sometimes it even makes them regret. People do not change when you tell them what they've done wrong. They don't change when you argue, when you plead, when you try to make them see your perspective. They change when they are forced to sit with their own actions. when they feel the consequences of their choices. And nothing makes someone reflect more than silence. Because silence forces them to look inward instead of deflecting outward. It's important to understand that silence is not about manipulation. It's not about playing games or trying to make someone chase you. It's about standing in your own power. It's about knowing that you don't need to force someone to see your worth. You don't need to beg for their attention. You don't need to argue to prove your value. Your silence does all of that for you. And in the process, you gain something far more important than their attention. You gain your self-respect. When something or someone occupies your mind, your energy naturally flows in that direction. This is why after a breakup or a rejection, people often find themselves consumed by thoughts of the other person. They wonder what went wrong, replay conversations, stalk social media profiles, and analyze every detail. All of this mental energy is being directed outward towards someone who is no longer actively choosing them. But what if that same energy could be redirected inward? What if instead of obsessing over why someone pulled away, you used that energy to elevate yourself? Most people don't realize how much power they give away when they fixate on someone else. Every thought, every action, every moment spent dwelling on another person is energy being drained from their own potential. They lose sight of themselves, their goals, their purpose, because they are too caught up in external validation. This is why people feel exhausted, anxious, and emotionally drained after dealing with heartbreak or disappointment. It's not just about the loss of a person, it's about the loss of self. They have placed their identity in someone else, and when that person leaves, they feel empty. But the truth is, the emptiness was already there. The person was just a distraction from it. Shifting energy back to yourself is a conscious decision. It starts with awareness. Recognizing when your thoughts are being consumed by someone else and choosing to redirect them. It's about making the decision to prioritize yourself, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. When you do this, everything changes. Your energy shifts. Your confidence grows. You begin to glow in a way that is impossible to ignore. And people notice. Think about the most magnetic, powerful people you know. They are not the ones chasing after others, begging for attention or drowning in self-pity. They are the ones who move with purpose. They are focused, driven, and engaged in their own journey. They are not concerned with who validates them, because they validate themselves. They do not chase because they know their value. And because of this, people are naturally drawn to them. This is the energy shift that happens when you stop focusing on others and start focusing on yourself. The best revenge is not anger, bitterness, or trying to prove a point. The best revenge is transformation. When someone pulls away from you, they expect a reaction. They expect you to reach out, to seek closure, to fight for their attention. But when you disappear into your own self-improvement, when you stop reacting and start evolving, they begin to wonder. They start to question if they made a mistake. They realize that instead of breaking you, they made you stronger. And that is far more powerful than any words you could ever say. Energy is magnetic. When you dwell in sadness, insecurity, and desperation, you attract more of the same. But when you shift your focus to growth, success, and self-care, you begin to attract better experiences, better opportunities, and better people. The world mirrors back the energy you put out. This is why people who love themselves effortlessly attract love, and people who are desperate for validation often find themselves ignored. The universe responds to how you treat yourself. So how do you shift your energy? Start by removing all external distractions that keep you tied to the past. Stop checking their social media. Stop waiting for their message. Stop asking mutual friends about them. Every time you do, you are reinforcing their presence in your mind. Instead, replace these habits with actions that fuel your growth. Go to the gym. Read books. Take on a new project. travel. Invest in yourself in ways that make you feel powerful. The more you do this, the more your mind will shift from thinking about them to thinking about yourself. And the more you focus on yourself, the more unstoppable you become. There is a version of you that is so confident, so self-assured, so fulfilled that you won't even recognize the person who once waited for a text, begged for closure, or questioned their worth because of someone else's actions. This version of you already exists. You just have to shift your energy to become them. People don't realize how much power they hand over when they make themselves too available. When someone disrespects you, pulls away, or treats you like an option, the natural instinct is to react, to ask why, to demand an explanation, to try and fix things. But what most don't understand is that every time you do this, you give them control. You send the message that their actions dictate your emotions. You let them know that they have power over how you feel. And once someone knows they have that power, they will use it, whether consciously or unconsciously. People only value what they believe they could lose. This is a fundamental truth in relationships, in business, in life. The more predictable you are, the less interesting you become. The more you chase, the less attractive you seem. The more you react, the easier you are to manipulate. And that's why the most powerful thing you can do when someone pulls away or disrespects you is to do nothing at all. Not out of passive aggression, not as a game, but because you understand your worth. You refuse to be someone who begs for attention or fights for basic respect. You know that if someone doesn't see your value, that is their loss, not yours. Think about the people you admire, the ones who command attention without even trying. They do not beg, they do not plead, they do not chase after those who don't appreciate them. Instead, they carry themselves with confidence, certainty, and an unshakable sense of self-respect. And because of that, they naturally attract respect in return. That is the energy you need to embody. You need to become the person who does not need to seek validation because they validate themselves. Most people confuse attachment with love. They think that because they feel deeply for someone, they must fight to keep them. But real love, real healthy love, is never forced. It does not require you to beg, does not require you to prove your worth. And the moment you feel like you have to convince someone to value you, that is the moment you need to walk away. Because anything you have to force will never truly be yours. When you stop reacting, when you stop chasing, when you stop trying to control how others perceive you, something incredible happens. The people who once ignored you start to notice you. The ones who took you for granted start to wonder where you've gone. The ones who thought they could come and go as they please start to realize that they were never entitled to you in the first place. But more importantly, you begin to notice yourself in a way you never have before. You realize that your power was never in their approval. It was always in your ability to walk away with your dignity intact. There is an undeniable magnetism in a person who is unbothered. Not in a way that is cold or distant, but in a way that exudes confidence and security. When you stop trying to prove your worth, people start to feel your absence. And it's not because you manipulated them into missing you. It's because for the first time, they are seeing you for who you truly are. Someone who does not need them to feel whole. So the next time you feel the urge to react, to chase, to beg for answers, pause. Instead of giving them the satisfaction of seeing you unravel, hold your ground. Redirect that energy back to yourself. Elevate your life in such a way that they have no choice but to see what they lost. And by the time they do, you will have already moved on to something greater. The hardest lesson in life is understanding that people are not obligated to love you, respect you, or choose you. No matter how much effort you put in, no matter how much you care, no matter how deeply you invest in someone, they always have the choice to walk away. And this is where most people struggle. They take rejection personally. They feel abandoned, unworthy, and not good enough. They think, if I had just done more, if I had just been better, if I had just said the right words, maybe they would have stayed. But the truth is, someone who truly values you will not need to be convinced. Someone who truly cares about you will not put you in a position where you have to question your worth. People who struggle with self-worth often develop an unhealthy attachment to those who pull away from them. They become fixated on proving themselves, on winning back the affection that was lost. But in doing so, they fail to see the damage they are causing to themselves. Every time you beg for someone's presence, every time you try to force a connection, every time you tolerate behavior that makes you feel small, you chip away at your own self-esteem. You tell yourself, I am not enough on my own. I need them to validate me. I need their attention to feel worthy. And this becomes a dangerous cycle. One where your happiness is always dependent on someone else's approval. The only way to break free is to shift the focus inward. Instead of asking, why don't they want me? Ask yourself, why am I allowing myself to feel unworthy because of them? Instead of trying to change their mind, work on changing your mindset. Instead of giving them the power to decide how you feel, reclaim that power by deciding how you will treat yourself. And the most powerful way to do this is through self-discipline. Self-discipline is not just about waking up early, going to the gym, or sticking to a schedule. It is about setting standards for yourself and refusing to settle for anything less. It is about knowing your value and enforcing it with your actions. When you are disciplined in your self-worth, you do not chase after people who are unsure about you. You do not entertain relationships that make you feel insecure. You do not waste your energy trying to prove yourself to those who do not appreciate you. Instead, you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, not for them, but for you. The problem is that most people are addicted to validation. They seek it in relationships, in social media, in external approval. They think that if they can just get one more text, one more compliment, one more sign that they are wanted, they will feel better. But validation is like a drug. It provides temporary relief, but it never truly satisfies. And the more you rely on it, the weaker you become. The only real solution is to cultivate internal validation. To build a life that makes you feel powerful, independent, and fulfilled. So much so that whether someone stays or leaves, it does not shake your foundation. This is why successful people are so attractive, not just in relationships, but in every aspect of life. They do not waste time begging for attention. They do not sit around waiting to be chosen. They choose themselves. They invest in their minds, their bodies, their careers, their personal growth. And because they carry themselves with confidence and purpose, people naturally gravitate toward them. When you shift your focus to yourself, something incredible happens. You start to glow in a way that others can't ignore. You become magnetic, not because you are chasing anyone, but because you are focused on becoming the best version of yourself. And the irony is that the very people who once overlooked you will suddenly start to notice. They will wonder what changed. They will see that you are no longer affected by their absence. And in that moment, the power dynamic shifts. Because when you no longer need them, that is when they will start to feel your absence the most. But by the time they do, you will have already moved forward. You will have already built a life that is so rich, so fulfilling, so full of purpose, that their attention will no longer matter to you. And that is the ultimate freedom. To know that your worth has never been and will never be dependent on someone else's choice. Emotional detachment is one of the most powerful skills a person can develop, yet it is one of the most misunderstood. Many people hear the phrase and assume it means becoming cold, uncaring, or shutting themselves off from the world. But true emotional detachment is not about being unfeeling. It's about being in control of your own emotions rather than letting them control you. It is about recognizing that your peace, your happiness, and your self-worth do not depend on external circumstances or the actions of other people. It is about learning how to maintain your power no matter what happens around you. Most people live in a constant state of emotional reaction. They allow other people's words, behaviors, and decisions to dictate how they feel. If someone gives them attention, they feel good. If someone ignores them, they feel bad. If things go their way, they are happy. If things don't, they fall apart. This way of living is exhausting because it places all of your emotional control in the hands of others. It makes you a slave to circumstances. It keeps you in a cycle where you are always waiting for something outside of yourself to make you feel whole. But emotional detachment changes everything. When you detach, you stop reacting. You stop letting people's choices dictate your mood. You stop giving power to situations that do not serve you. And in doing so, you become untouchable. You become someone who is centered, calm, and in control. You become the kind of person who cannot be easily manipulated, guilt-tripped, or swayed by emotional games. And that is when everything starts to shift in your favor. Detachment does not mean you don't care. It means you care differently. You still love, but you do not cling. You still invest in relationships, but you do not tie your self-worth to them. You still hope for the best, but you are not destroyed when things don't go as planned. You recognize that people are free to come and go, and instead of resisting this truth, you accept it. You understand that nothing lasts forever, and instead of fearing that, you embrace it. And because of this, you are able to enjoy things as they are without needing to control them. One of the biggest signs of emotional strength is being able to walk away from what does not serve you without feeling the need to explain, justify, or seek closure. So many people waste months, even years, trying to understand why someone treated them a certain way, why a relationship ended, or why things didn't work out the way they hoped. They go back and forth in their minds, replaying scenarios, analyzing every detail, searching for answers that will never come. But the truth is, some things do not need to be understood. They just need to be accepted. Detachment allows you to release the need for closure. It frees you from the mental prison of overthinking. It helps you move forward without carrying unnecessary emotional baggage. It gives you the ability to say, this did not work out, and that is okay. This person chose to walk away, and I do not need to chase them. This situation did not go as I planned, but I trust that something better is coming. And when you operate from this mindset, you begin to experience an entirely new level of peace. This is why people who master detachment are so attractive. They radiate a calm confidence that is undeniable. They are not easily shaken. They do not seek validation. They do not beg for love or attention. They do not engage in petty arguments or emotional drama. They carry themselves with quiet assurance. And because of that, people naturally respect them. And ironically, the very people who once took them for granted often end up chasing after them simply because they no longer feel entitled to their energy. When you become emotionally detached, you also become more selective. You stop wasting your time on meaningless connections. You stop entertaining people who bring chaos into your life. You stop over-explaining yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. You start moving differently. And because of that, your life starts to elevate. You find yourself in better relationships, better opportunities, and better environments, simply because you are no longer settling for anything less. At its core, detachment is not about loss. It is about freedom. It is about no longer allowing temporary emotions to dictate permanent decisions. It is about no longer making people or situations the center of your world. It is about recognizing that true peace comes from within. And once you have that, nothing and no one can take it from you.